So, but there was a controversy, I believe it was 3 weeks ago, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, 3 weeks ago I did a
video you shouldn't have done?
it was a segment. It started out a blog, and then it turned into a segment here on the show, and then it turned into a video, and the video was called the Olivet Challenge. Now, to be brutally honest, I mean, I knew it was controversial. There's no question about it. I've talked about that. I talked about it a couple weeks ago. But I wouldn't have imagined that it would have gotten the response that it's gotten. It's gotten a pretty dramatic response from a handful of people, specifically those who are faculty members. No real high-standing administrator or anything has commented on it, but I've decided that the opening monologue of this evening's program would be dedicated to a public apology, actually a series of apologies. And this has come after quite a bit of thought. It's come after quite a bit of counsel. This decision wasn't easy for me. It's forced me to look closely at what I claim to stand for. You know, I mean, do I really believe what I say? Am I willing to stand up for it? And is it something that I would fight for? You know, what I believe, is it really, really something deep down inside that I would be willing to fight for, even if the odds were against me? Well, these questions and a lot of other questions have been at the center of my thoughts for the past few weeks, ever since I issued that video. After almost 2 years here at the school, I've seen things that have that I think, in my heart of hearts, conflict with the values that the school professes to hold dear. I really have. I've seen things that, you know, our school makes claims that we maintain certain values, and then we do things that seem to be contrary to those values, and I've seen that over the past few years, you know, and I've heard grumbling among the student body over programs that left them feeling guilty for things they insist they're not even responsible for. I've been in rooms as students vented their frustrations because they felt misled pertaining to the religious nature of the college. This is real stuff. These are real students who pay real money. Okay? Now, I grant I haven't seen it all. I haven't talked to every student. I've never claimed to. But I've seen enough to feel a general sympathy for these students. To make matters worse, the longer I listened, the louder the voices became. These people were more frustrated. These people, they were more than frustrated, to be honest. They were betrayed. They felt that way. They felt as if in some way they'd been let down. They believed in Olivet, and they still do. They stood for the compact, and they still do. But they felt as if it was a one-way street. They felt that those who stood at odds with them were the ones with the power, and that the ones with the power were saying, my way or the highway. Now, are these students wrong? I don't know. Are they strong? Not really. The thing is these students that we're talking about, they're young. They really are. And many of them fear being reprimanded. They've been open and honest about this, both with me and with teachers. Some are afraid to speak out for fear of being called a hate monger. Some are afraid of being called narrow-minded, bigoted. Some of them are afraid of being called a racist. And you know what? I can sympathize with that because I've been called those very things for doing what they're afraid to do. You know, these kids, they came to work towards building a career. They didn't come to sabotage it. As for me, to be brutally honest, I don't fear those in power. I'm not afraid of what they'll do to my career. I have little to lose, I really do. I'm too, it's like...
so much to gain.
I have little to lose. I told my professor that today. So, but, and it's for this reason that so many students have come to me over the past 2 years, and they've thanked me. They've thanked me for what I've done. I can do what many of them can't. I can put into words what a lot of them can only think inside. And I'm willing to go toe-to-toe with those in power whenever it's a matter of principle, and I'm not afraid. I can tell you just how many times, that I've had someone thank me. Honestly, I try to forget how many times people come up and thank me. And the reason's simple, is because every time I hear those words, I'm made aware of yet one more person on this campus who is either scared or unfit to take a public stand for what they believe to be true. And that's sad. Now, having said all of this, I believe that a series of apologies are long overdue. And I hope that those groups who have been grossly offended are paying attention, and I want them to hear this loud and clear. First, I want to say I'm sorry to the feminists I've angered with my comments. I'm sorry that your efforts to intimidate me have not worked. I'm sorry that your efforts to convince me of the propaganda of male privilege has had horrific results. And I'm sorry to inform you that your efforts to manipulate me and other students on this campus into believing in the inherently sexist notion of affirmative action has failed. I want to say I'm sorry to all the multiculturalists for pointing out the obvious fact that multiculturalism includes the majority culture. It was certainly unfair for me to insist that the majority culture get fair treatment. How I could ever insist that equal treatment would involve celebrating all cultures and traditions is beyond all reason. I also ask those endorsing tolerance and diversity to forgive me. I wish for them to overlook my insisting that tolerance means tolerating those you disagree with, and that diversity would include white, heterosexual Christian males. Tolerance is a big tent. See, I understand now your gross double standard. Diversity is broad, but it's not broad enough to include those you disagree with. And I understand this now. But most importantly, I want to apologize to the students, faculty, and listeners that have stood by me all this time. I'm sorry for having scared the daylights out of you with the idea that I was going to stop standing for what I believe to be moral, just, and fair. I'm sorry for ever even giving the impression that I would back down from that constitutionally recognized freedom of speech given to us by God. So in conclusion, I'm sorry for all those I've offended. I'm sorry that you won't get your way. I'm sorry that you won't get the apology you're looking for. I'm sorry that you'll have to accept, albeit grudgingly, the fact that the values of tolerance, multiculturalism, and diversity that you hold so dear just so happen to protect us from you. That is my apology.